Well, joining us here on Christmas Clatter is a Canadian singer from the Toronto area, Dallas Rodin, with her very first Christmas album, and it's really really good, guys. So check it out. It releases today. It's well, I hate using the word different, and I because it's not. It's great pop music. It's great dance music. It touches on some of the serious things of Christmas. Christmas isn't always lollipops and bubblegum. There's some serious issues that go around, and she's not afraid to sing about that. And she's not afraid to honor Christmas in a traditional light as well. Dallas, thanks so much for being on Christmas Clatter.
No, thank you so much for
Yeah.
having me. And I actually love the word different, so I'm
Oh,
glad you actually
good.
said that.
Good. I always struggle with the word different because sometimes people take it as a like a negative, like,
Yeah,
oh, it's different. But so I try to find something else, you know, um, but but it I really like this album. I love
thank
music. I grew
you.
up listening to music as a kid. I fell in love with music as a young age. I've been playing bass for good lord more years I can count now.
That's
But
awesome.
I'm not that I have a certain ceiling as a musician. I'm not that talented, but I always just really love it, and I've always liked all kinds of music from
Mhm.
pop and rock and country. Where I'm from, you have to like country music or you get
Yeah.
kicked out. But when I first heard your album, it had like this little bit of dance flair, a little bit of pop to it, but the lyrics were so serious, not serious like what's the word I'm looking for? Real pointed. You really know what you was wanting to say, but it still invoked the holiday feels, and it was just really, really great. And I think I sent you a longer email than I had intended on your music, but because sometimes pop is doesn't have a message and it doesn't have a drive, and that's
Yeah.
what I really liked about it. But before we get into the music too deep, this had to start as an idea, and so just kind of take us through that journey of where this album came from. I think I forgot to mention the name. Seasons change, and so do we.
We changed too, yeah.
We changed too. I'm sorry. I'll let
No,
it
it's okay.
go. Yeah. So just take us to the journey. How did this start? Where did you get the idea of doing a Christmas album?
Yeah, it started basically at the beginning of 2021. Growing up, though, I loved Christmas. I just really loved the traditional aspects of, it's all about family and, going to get the tree and watching Christmas movies. And, Christmas music was a really big part to play in my life. So at the top of January this year, I sat down with my manager and producer, and we always kind of go over our goals for the year. And I basically just said it to them, and I was just like, I think I want to do a Christmas album and release it by the end of this year. And he was like, "All right, let's do it." So we honestly started. I want to say like the next day because
Mhm.
I mean it's a whole album, and I'm an independent artist, so
Right.
I'm doing this all myself. So
Yeah.
I knew getting an early start would definitely benefit the
Yes.
entire album. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and honestly, like at first it was definitely difficult. I feel like I had never attempted to write a Christmas song before. So
Mhm.
we both sat there and were like, how do we start this? And as a joke, we sort of Googled Christmas words and we were like, why don't we just jumble this all up together and see if we can make a song. And that song actually makes it onto the album. And it just got a lot easier and simpler as we went. But yeah, I mean, as summer came along, again, it had its challenges trying to write Christmas music
Right.
in the summer here. But yeah, I'm really proud of this project, honestly. Like I'm so excited for people to listen.
Yeah. I am too. I liked what you did with the names of the song. I mean, you have some originals, in here and mixed with a few songs that people have heard before, a few covers and things. But it's like, the names aren't always exactly what they seem, and that's really great writing. But for those, I've talked to enough independent um, artists, and once you start an album, whether it's Christmas or not, it becomes all consuming, to get
Mm,
that album done and completed. So to stay in that Christmas mindset is you know, year round is a challenge. I do Christmas Clatter year round, but it's really
Yeah.
just like, once a week I need to, think of something Christmassy and talk about it. But, when you're doing an album, you're thinking, you know, of the song, you have the lyrics, then you have the arrangements, and then you have the recording of it, and then there's layers on top of layers. And so
And
I
then
can
you gotta build
imagine.
the content, and then
Right. And
building the content on top of that was, a bit difficult, but I think a lot of people will be shocked to see that my first kind of body of work
yeah,
is a Christmas album, but for me, as an independent artist, I actually thought it was a very, like, strategic and smart decision because
right.
the industry is just ever changing and you
Mhm.
really never know what to expect. It changes daily. But the one constant in the music industry is holiday music.
Right.
So I thought it would be a smart idea to always have something to kind of come back to around this time of year.
Yeah, it definitely is smart. A few episodes ago, we talked about It's a Wonderful Life because it's 75 years old this year, and it's like, how many 75-year-old movies do people still talk about every year? Not
Exactly.
many, and it's because Christmas is a great opportunity to, revisit that movie as it is to revisit so many classic holiday standards that everybody knows and loves, and to
Mhm.
get your music out there on that as well. And, I don't remember if I told you in the email, I have releasing this week, and I'll be adding your songs on there, too. I'm releasing what I call a Christmas spotlight playlist on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube Music, and I'm gonna be putting a couple of your songs on there. It's,
Oh,
uh
that's awesome. Thank
it's,
you.
um it's just for independent artists or artists on small labels, and it's gonna be no more than 24 songs. So it's gonna be a real curated playlist, and a couple of your songs are gonna be put up there. Nightmare Before Christmas will be one, and then I'm really debating between 2 others right now, and, so 3 might make it on there, but, 2 for sure.
What are you
And,
debating between? I'm curious.
um, Scrooge and, Snow Angel, so
Oh, you
and
you picked my top 3 for sure, so that's
well,
awesome. Thank you.
yeah, I really considered, Cookies and Cocoa also in Winter Dream, and then I also really was considering Silent Night because we'll get to that a little bit later, but, it felt like a perfect ending to an
Of
album.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I'm real big on, like, track order. I never put an album together, and so every time I think of someone that writes, 9 songs, it's like, conspiracy theory, corkboard, strings and yarns and stuff trying to figure what order to, put the album in, and I have this weird, obsession with the last song of an album.
Mm,
I'm an album guy. I love sitting down and listening to full albums, by an artist, and the last song for some reason is always the song I'm most interested to hear, but I won't jump to it because I wanna hear it after I hear all the other songs because
mhm.
it feels different, you know? It's like
Yeah,
you have you have all the experiences of those songs on top of it, and then it's the last song. But, yeah, so that'll be, part of the, Christmas Spotlight playlist, presented by Christmas Clatter. So I'll be
that's
putting those
awesome.
on.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's some other artists and stuff on there, and links to that playlist on all 3 platforms will be in the show notes and description, so you can hear the full songs. But let's get into your music a little bit. I love this, Nightmare Before Christmas. I thought it was gonna be a cover when I saw the name of it, which it was
Mhm.
not, and then there was something in there that I wondered if you knew about it or if it was something you did on purpose. But let's listen to a little bit of it. This is just a few seconds from towards the beginning, I believe, if I remember. That's where I pulled from. But here's a little bit of Nightmare Before Christmas.
Skin cold to the touch when we fall in love, fall in love, fall in love, fall in love. Living in a nightmare before Christmas. Living in a nightmare before Christmas. Living in a nightmare.
I love that melody line. I
Thank
love that.
you.
The thing I want to ask you about is you have like the Carol of the Bells going on in the background
Mhm.
there, and it kind of rolls through the whole song. Um, were you aware that the motif for Jack Skellington in the movie Nightmare Before Christmas is a derivative of Carol of the Bells?
I was not.
Yeah.
I was not at all.
So, yeah, it is, and I was like, "Was that something she knows? Or is that
Oh,
just kind of like one of those, the world just moves together and makes things happen the way they're supposed to kinda thing," you know?
yeah,
But
fully, because even with that sample, we had to basically reproduce the song in order to use that and record it ourselves and use obviously a copyrighted sample. Um, but yeah, like originally had the whole Carol of the Bells going in the introduction, and then
mm,
it slowly kind of fades into this morphed dark version, and that was the
uh-huh,
whole point of the song. But obviously, for copyright reasons, we couldn't do so. So
right.
we kind of had to scrap that and go with something we were able to use. But
Mhm,
yeah, this song was definitely one of my favorites off of the album because I really had a solid concept in mind of how I wanted to start the album, and
mhm,
I really wanted it to be a bit dark and edgy, and that's
right,
really what my music is about.
mhm,
And a lot of people would not associate that with Christmas, so I really wanted to do something that would kind of grab the listener's attention right away.
mhm,
And I just thought, why don't we, a lot of people probably would have thought it's more of a Halloween song because obviously,
yeah,
Nightmare Before Christmas kind of has that vibe. But when you actually listen to it lyrically, it's still such a, if I can toot my own horn, it's lyrically like beautifully about Christmas and
right,
just this tragic love story that falls around this time of year. And
yeah.
yeah, I just loved it.
Yeah, it is great, and, every year I make it a point to have an episode on kind of the harder things of Christmas. My saying, and people that listen have probably heard this at nauseum, but Christmas makes the happy times happier and the sad times sadder, you know,
Yes,
and
that's accurate.
it just does, and, to have songs that tackle those is great because, even at Christmas time, not everybody's in, high spirits, and to have a song
Mhm,
that's Christmas that they can relate to is much needed,
mhm.
because sometimes, Bing and Frank and Andy aren't what you wanna listen to,
Yeah.
It's like, and I need something that's a little darker and fits my mood right now, but it's still with that undercurrent of that Carol of the Bells through all that you sampled, it was just like instantly, it's like, "Yes, this is Christmas music," and I wasn't sure where it was going, and I really and that melody for that chorus, "Nightmare Before Christmas," I just really it's really infectious, and found myself
Thank you.
humming it quite a bit and stuff, but,
Thank you.
I really like that, and I just didn't know about the Carol of the Bells thing, if that's something that you knew or if that was just one of those
I
things.
didn't. I did not, so that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for telling me that.
Well, see, now in your next interview, you'd be like, "Well, I introduced Carol of the Bells because that's, the part of the motif from, for Jack's," you could
Yeah,
use it, and
exactly.
so
Make my way through.
yeah, there you go, but, yeah, it's definitely one that will be on the playlist, definitely one that people need to go out and, the streaming service and get it and download this album and listen through it all the way through. Now, Scrooge, I really like too because you did it to me again with the name, and then you flipped the word Scrooge on its head, and it was really smart. I love this song for 2 reasons. I think it's really smart lyrically. I really like it, and it really reminds me. I graduated high school in the mid '90s. It really has this like '90s rock vibe to it,
Mhm.
which just had me hook, line, and sinker from the start. But I this is one that I this may be my favorite of all the songs, so it's probably going to end up on the playlist. But because I'm just such a '90s music nerd, I guess.
Yeah.
But I really like it. But here's a little bit of Scrooge for everybody to listen to.
Cannot behave out of control. I'm ruining it all. Damaged and torn. I'm miserable. Even the night of Christmas lights. I'm trying to be polite. I'm sorry, I don't really care what people think. All my
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I like that. Now I left some of the great lyric spots out of there because I just don't want to give it away here on the podcast. I want people to go hunt it down and see what we're talking about. But is that a sampled bass or is that someone actually playing bass?
No, my producer played bass on this
I
one.
I thought so, but the sampled basses
Yeah.
are getting so good anymore, it's getting hard to tell.
Right.
You know, like,
Yeah.
it's like I was, like, almost crushed when I found out, like, on the Future Nostalgia that Dua Lipa, like, had a lot of sampled bass in that. It's like, not
Oh, yeah, that's
eh,
crazy. Yeah.
but it sounds great. I mean, you can still play it on bass, but it's just like, "Oh, man," but
Just crushes your soul a little
yeah,
bit
as
as
a
a
bass player,
musician.
I mean, it doesn't
Yeah.
mean I don't like it any less than I do, but it's like but I just love that bass tone in that. It just takes me back, you know, and it kinda almost has that, like, floppy bass string sound that was always so cool. I guess it like a Music Man or, uh, almost has a Music Man style or P bass over
Yeah.
over
I'm
but
glad
that
you said that about
yeah.
this one just because Scrooge almost didn't make the album.
Really?
We hadn't, like, even had written it until I wanna say maybe about a month ago. So a lot of
Really?
these songs, yeah, a lot of these songs were actually done, vocally, lyrically, melodically by
Mhm.
May of 2021.
Yeah.
So they were all done. Basically, all of the summer was up to production.
Right.
And I just remember kind of listening back and I just felt like there was something missing,
Mhm.
especially because, I love the fact that you said, you graduated high school in the '90s. It's funny because I graduated high school in 2016, but I grew up listening to, Nirvana,
Uh-huh.
Blink-182, like Green Day.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's really like part of who I am musically, and I
Mhm.
just felt like I needed to put one more song in the album, even topic-wise, to kind of talk about it is a bit heavier, I would
Yeah.
say, in terms of, like, concept and what we're talking about, but it doesn't sit uncomfortably, if that makes
Right.
sense to the
Yeah.
listener. I feel like we were able to talk about, things that maybe like you said, a lot of people don't always feel so cheerful around this time, and, you've got high highs and a lot of low lows, and I just wanted a song on the album that
Mhm.
touched that subject as well, and I feel like Scrooge was the song.
Yeah, it was, and like I said, lyrically, it's so smart because it's Scrooge, and you turn Scrooge into a verb, but then there's a lot of imagery that captures, like, the Grinch as well,
Mhm.
and so
Mhm.
those 2 characters are more or less one and the same, as
Mhm.
far as their in their, respective stories, so that's what I really liked about it. It's like you captured, the Scrooge and the Grinch and feeling like that, but married them so well, and then, on top of that, great, 90s rock beat, and it opens with, with this just driving acoustic guitar riff, and, it just it sits well, I think, because being it's the 2nd song on the
Mhm.
album right after Nightmare Before Christmas, and then, it's like, you know, for me, it's like Nightmare took me by surprise, and then that's like when I hit the 2nd song, it's like, I'm surprised again, it was so I really liked it,
I
but
mean,
they do go hand in hand very well together.
yeah, and I feel like kinda going back to what you were talking about earlier when you're super intrigued by the last song all the time and
Mhm.
kinda like how the track list is made up. I feel like as I was writing these songs, I could picture where they were gonna sit in the album, and I
Oh,
I
yeah.
definitely knew I wanted to start with Nightmare just because it was and is probably the most heavily produced and also melodically, lyrically, it's also quite heavy. So I wanted to take the listener through a journey of, sitting with those heavier subjects and heavier produced songs, and then we kind of flow nicely into, what you would think to be Christmas music.
Right.
So all I need this Christmas, and like you said, cookies and cocoa. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it is quite a, journey you take people through all 9 of these songs and, tackling these subjects, and then we have Snow Angel, then you give a Santa Baby, which, people are very, familiar with, and then,
Hmm.
All I Need for Christmas interlude and things, which is really cool, but, um, it's just, which Let me ask you, which song did you have first of all these on the album?
Winter Dream was sorry, is the question like which one did I write
What
first?
yeah, which one did you have first? First, concept and nearly complete. Was kind of the first one done, so to speak.
So we definitely worked on all of these relatively at the same time.
Hmm.
So first song we wrote was Winter Dream, but we had only completed maybe the verse pre-hook, and then
Hmm.
we kind of left it there, went on, and I think our second one we wrote was Snow Angel, which I'm so happy about this one because I remember that day going to the studio and I was actually going for a session for another artist. I was supposed to just be co-writing on one of
Hmm.
their songs, but they were running late and I'm definitely not one to waste time in the studio. So my producer Adam and I basically were like, we could probably try writing another Christmas song. And
Hmm.
Snow Angel happened. And it's one of my favorite songs off of the album.
Yeah.
And I really do think a lot of people are going to like this one.
Speaking of Snow Angel, let's listen to a little bit of it.
My plan, you were my blessing. You were a gift I took for granted. I really miss you in my circle. Only 25 more days until you come back home. I'll be patient. I'll be your snow angel. Snow, snow.
You're really great at melodies. I really love
Thank
your
you.
melodies that you write for these songs, and yeah,
Thank you.
this Snow Angel is kind of one of my favorite. I guess you call it like subgenre of Christmas music. It's the longing for someone to come home for Christmas kind of thing. You know,
Yeah.
I just those kind of songs always just really, I remember as a kid, I'll be home for Christmas always just kind of got to me. And then a
Oh,
few years,
love that one.
yeah, and then a few years back, Megan Trainor came out with "I'll Be Home," and that always kind of got me too. And this falls in that same kind of vein, and of waiting for someone to be home for Christmas, and you have these melodies,
Yeah.
and then you have that like um, that almost sounds like a clap, but it's almost like a snare thing that comes in and out for the beat and in the background. That's just really cool, and the thing I like about it is that keyboard has that like whirly Rhodes sound to it, and I've always been a sucker for that sound,
Mm.
and so it kind of it hit a lot of my checkbox of things I love, so but,
That's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, this one was definitely special, and even writing it, I think we knew we had a Christmas hit on our hands, whether
yeah,
it be this year or next year, but I really do like, kinda like you said, it's definitely just one of those songs
yeah,
where it just kinda makes you feel nostalgic
yeah, it
in a
does,
sense,
yeah.
and it definitely touches on, again, those tougher subjects of longing for someone or not being around a loved one during this time of year, and that can be super difficult and hard mentally, so
Yeah. Yeah, when I heard this song, the way the way I listen to music is I'll listen through the album the whole way through without stopping, and then my second time through, I listen to each song twice, back it up,
Mm.
and I don't know why, but when I
You've got a lot more patience than I do. I feel like if I don't like a song within 10 seconds, I'm skip, skip.
yeah, well, see, that's one of the reasons I fell back in love with vinyl is it makes you sit and listen, so a song that usually you're not care for, you sit through it enough, you learn to at least appreciate it, if not love it, but, Snow
Right.
Angel, about the halfway through, about the second time or so, I listened to it, I could just hear this song, like, as a background track on like a Christmas movie kinda thing,
Mm.
and, it just kinda had that that vibe of the story it was telling was just so perfect that I could see it, sitting in there just, like a New York City just blanketed in snow and that kinda thing, and, just in my mind's eye, but it is I keep waffling on this last song on this songs I'm gonna put on the playlist, but it's one that hits me in my Christmas feels each time I listen to it. Just especially that line, about only waiting 25 more days. It's just that just something about that line
Mhm.
just kind of just really, you know, hits home to me for various reasons, but it's gonna be a a, a, a great song for you in the future. I just know it will. It's just
Thank you.
beautifully
Thank you so
done.
much. I
But
really appreciate that.
yeah,
Ideally, we would love to get these songs, who knows what'll happen.
right.
But I agree. I really do see some of these songs, could fit so perfectly on some of those Netflix
Yeah.
originals that they come out with, or HBO Christmas movies. And
Mhm.
I'm really hoping that that's kind of where the future lies for some of these songs.
Yeah. Yeah, that and more, that's a great place to be because, there's a lot of songs that, land in the movies and then, from the movie they become, you know, a Christmas hit,
Huge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Drifters' White Christmas was kinda dead until Home Alone, you
Mm,
know? So and then, like, Pennies from Heaven was never a Christmas movie till it was an Elf, so, that
yeah.
kinda thing, or
But
Chris
really, that's all
yeah,
it takes. That's
yeah,
really all it takes. So
yeah, it really
hoping for
does.
the best.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and, we've talked about this a little bit, but, she go uh, we just covered the first 3 songs, and, then there's, you know, several more songs in between this whole album, and, uh, each one has their unique quality, so everybody out there listening, watching on here on YouTube, definitely go check it out, but you end with this great short acapella version of Silent Night, and let's give it just a quick listen to what you done there.
Brown young virgin mother and child, holy infant, so tender and
Mm,
Just beautiful. Now,
thank you.
I love it when people, you know pay homage to the traditional and things, and this was just so tastefully done, and it just sits so well at the end after listening through the whole album. And there's several voices on there. I think you're maybe on there more than once, but then there's some
Mhm.
other people on there as well. So
There's
how
not, it's just me.
it's all you? I could have swore
It's
there's at
all
least one other
me.
person on there. Oh my goodness.
No.
You got me here. Yeah.
Yeah, another surprise, but
Yeah.
no, yeah, I can with those harmonies are probably my favorite thing
Uh,
about music. I could sit in the booth all day and just come up with crazy harmonies. I love to do it, and yeah, I knew right away when I had decided I was doing a Christmas album that I wanted to do an a cappella version of Silent Night at the
yeah.
end. I didn't know how difficult it was gonna be.
Yeah.
It's funny because it's actually the shortest song. I only did the verse and the pre and the hook of the whole song,
Right.
as an outro, and it probably took me the longest to actually record.
Yeah.
Just getting those harmonies right, and we actually did this a cappella, so I wasn't, kind of using a track to guide me and then we
Mhm.
stripped it back of the track. No, we fully did this a cappella, and it definitely took some time, but I'm really happy with how it comes out because I feel like it has that eerie sound still in a
Yeah.
way with
Mhm.
those, deeper dissonant, like,
Mhm.
harmonies, and it kind of brings you back to that beginning, but then it's also beautiful and kind of, like, closes like a book, like a
Yeah.
nice little
Mhm.
Christmas book, so
Yeah. It does. Yeah, I'd probably call it haunting more than eerie. Kinda has this
haunting, I like
Yeah,
that, I like that.
yeah, it's kinda haunting, but the thing I like about it, the song itself is just, such a peaceful song as it's
Mhm.
Silent Night, but, with all the things that you cover before this album, it leaves people on this, like even though it's haunting, it leaves this, like, nugget of hope, as well that, yeah, things might be terrible, but it'll change and get better too, and things. But man, I knew you had record several parts in there, but I just swore there was one other person in there. And
What did
so
you think it was the deeper harm like the
I thought there was maybe a
manly.
guy. I thought there was a guy in there
Yeah,
singing with you, but
that's funny.
that's well done, very well done. But
Thank you,
yeah.
thank
So
you.
how many tracks of you are in there? Do you even remember?
I I don't remember, but I mean, we've got probably doubles and triples of
Yeah.
a lot of the harmonies. I want to say at least one, two, at least four, maybe five.
Okay.
So not too
Yeah,
much,
it's
too
yeah, it's
many,
not like a
but
big choir kinda thing, but yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's cool, that's cool. Well, someone doesn't sit down and create a Christmas album full of 9 songs without having at least some love for Christmas. Um, tell us about maybe, you know, a family tradition that you had growing up or something special that happened, with your family around Christmas.
Oh, there's so many. The ones I probably think of the most would be we have this one kind of long hill in our front yard, and as a kid, it just seemed ginormous, and
Mhm.
I remember every year when we had our first snowfall and it really kind of stuck to the ground and it was more of like a packing snow. All of us, I have 3 brothers, so all of like my 3 brothers, my mom, my dad, we'd go outside and we would grab our sleds and we would just be building some ramps and we would go crazy on that hill and that was probably one of the more fun traditions other than, even just going and getting our tree and decorating our tree together as a family and having the Grinch on in the background, drinking hot
Yeah.
chocolate. Those are things that really just like make my heart warm. I just love Christmas
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Let me ask you this too, being a obvious music lover and fan, you're sitting down, with your favorite Christmas drink and a blanket. What Christmas music are you turning on the radio to listen to?
Oh, I'm gonna give it out to a fellow Canadian, and I'll say Michael Bublé,
Oh,
just
yeah.
because I do love on his album the way he's like, "Is beginning to look a lot like, I love it.
Yeah.
What's not to love?"
Ah,
But, I mean, even, like, the later ones, like, Justin Bieber's album had
yeah.
a few really great tracks. Kelly
Oh, yeah.
Clarkson actually
Yes.
has a lot of good tracks on
Mhm.
there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I would
Yeah.
go with that.
Yeah, people look at me sideways when I say, Justin Bieber's Christmas album's, really worth listening to, because it's everything,
It's great.
yeah,
It's
it
so good.
is really good, and, and it's like, "Guys, give it a chance." I know, what you think of, his song, "Mistletoe" is just fantastic, and,
Mhm.
I even tell people this is going in the Wayback Machine, but the NSYNC's Christmas album's really good too,
Yeah.
and it's worth listening to, and there's some people just like the traditional stuff, and that's fine, but I've always been an all of the above person and find
Agreed, me too.
yeah. I like Michael Bublé too, he's on year round around our house, we just,
Yeah.
always find to listen to him in and out of season, because it's not his songs that are not Christmas are wonderfully done as well, so,
Mhm.
but
Great
yeah,
voice too.
yeah, oh yeah, just killer. It's just like butter, but, well, Dallas, thanks so much for joining me here on Christmas Clatter, and, well done on this album.
Thank you.
Seasons change, so let me start again on that.
We changed
Seasons
too. I
Yep,
It's a
seasons change
mouthful.
yeah, seasons change, We Change 2 is available now on streaming. Where can they find you and where can they find the album?
It'll be available on all streaming platforms as well as iTunes. So, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, all of the above. You can find me on Instagram at Dallas Rodin, Rodin, and YouTube as well, Dallas Rodin.
All right. All the links to Dallas will be in the show notes and descriptions. All the links to Seasons Change, We Do Too, will be there as well. So you guys will be just a tap away. And Dallas, you may not know this, but last year I started a thing called the Silver Bell Awards, honoring excellent in Christmas music. And you have been nominated for 3 categories. So,
That's awesome.
yeah, since this is your first album, you've been nominated for Newcomer of the Year, Nightmare Before Christmas for Best Original Christmas Song, and as Best Christmas Album. So that'll be
I
coming
love
out.
that. Thank you.
So all the awards and all the winners will be announced on an episode coming up mid-December. I'll email you and let you know when that is, and we'll see. So there's
Amazing. Thank you so
yeah,
much.
no problem. I doing Christmas Clatter. I've been blessed enough to get to hear from lots and lots of people that do Christmas music. And last year I was like, somebody needs to do some Christmas music awards, and so and so we started.
Well, it only makes sense for Christmas Clatter to do that.
Yeah. So, but I really enjoyed speaking with you, and don't be a stranger around here at Christmas Clatter.
I won't. Thank you so much. I really appreciate
All
this.
right. And if I don't talk to you between now and then, have a Merry Christmas.
You as well. Thank you.
Huh? Christmas Clatter is a very merry media production. And as always, remember, keep Christmas hope alive every day.